To Congressman Ron Paul.
Thank you, and I appreciate being here today. I am a physician from
I'm sorry?
I am a physician from Lake Jackson. My wife is with me. We've been married for 53 years. We have 5 children and 18 grandchildren and a few great-grandchildren. But I practiced medicine off and on in Lake Jackson for 30 years, delivered 4,000 babies. But in the 1970s, I got pretty worried about the trends I saw, and I believed at that time that it would lead to a financial disaster, and I ran for Congress. I served 4 terms and decided that I didn't want to make a career and stay in Washington. So I left Congress, went back and practiced medicine for 12 years. But then in 1996, I thought maybe there would be hope. Maybe we could actually cut back and get some sense up there and get the budget balanced. And I went back into Congress, and I have been struggling. And right now, I think the country is coming around, and they're getting ready. Thank goodness for the Tea Party movement. The people are waking up, and Washington hopefully will get the
All right, we now turn. First question. The United States provides over $50 billion a year in financial aid to foreign governments and organizations around the world. So number 1, do you approve of this level of expenditure? And 2, but are there particular foreign governments or organizations that we should support with our tax dollars? For that, we go to Mr. Ron Paul.
I think you're referring to foreign aid, $50 billion. I've never voted for 1 penny of foreign aid and never intend to. But I'll tell you what, the number is much bigger than that, because there's so many other budgets where the people get money sent overseas and it's hidden. For instance, it's in the CIA budget. That money is foreign aid to go over and prop up, a lot of times, dictatorships. There's a lot in the so-called defense budget, the military budget, which is nothing more than foreign aid to other countries. And then worst of all is what the Federal Reserve does, because they're allowed to give loans and make grants to foreign governments and foreign central banks, and they literally do it. It's off budget, and it is done with the Congress not knowing about it, and we're not even allowed to audit the Federal Reserve. So if we ever want to get to the bottom of the problems we have in Washington, not only do we have to look at the appropriation process, we have to look at the monetary system and come up and rein in the Federal Reserve and make sure they're not doing some of the things that they have been doing, and that Congress gets control of this process once again.
And now we turn to Dr. Ron Paul.
If anybody was asked about whether the Congress should designate the spending and how the money should be spent, they would say, yeah, that's in the Constitution. You're supposed to designate it. But if you put an earmark in, they say, oh, no, that's not right. You don't want to earmark it. But that's what earmarks are, designation. So the principle of earmarking is correct. The Congress should earmark or designate every single penny. If you vote against earmarks, you put the money into the executive branch, and the executive branch usurps the prerogatives of the Congress, and that is not the way the Constitution is written. Pork barrel spending is something like, I've heard a little bit of criticism over the last couple of years about, oh, I didn't vote for the money for the flood, for the hurricane. If you want to talk about pork barreling, it was in a bill. It was $686 billion, a continuing resolution. They had money in there to bail out the car industries. They had money in there for foreign aid, and it was just a big bloated budget. But they did put in the money, for the hurricane relief. So in one sense, they say, oh, you should vote for that, but we're against pork barrel spending. I say the best principle to take is to protect the interest of the Congress, designate how the money is spent, and defend that position, but then vote against the appropriations because they're out of control, and at the bottom line is vote against big government spending.
All right. All right, thank you, Mr. Graney. We now turn to Congressman Ron Paul.
I think it should go without saying, if something's illegal, we shouldn't permit it. So that should be settled. We shouldn't have illegal immigration. But what encourages it, I think the welfare state does. The welfare state here, as well as providing welfare for illegal immigrants. And this is what's bankrupted so many hospitals and school districts, because illegals come over and you, the taxpayer, have to pay for the education as well as their medical care. I've introduced legislation that would abolish the whole concept of federal mandates. I happen to still believe that the state should run these things and not have federal mandates from the federal government. But the welfare system also works at home. I know we want to put all the blame on the illegal immigrants, but believe me, the system here at home encourages some of our American citizens not to take the jobs that are available, because it's actually pretty easy to get the welfare and jobs go begging. Half of the people that come to my office say, don't let the illegals in. The other half, especially when the economy is doing better, it was the business people saying, we need workers, and we still have some of that. So if the welfare system, big government, is at fault so often. If we had a truly free, prosperous market, I'll tell you what, there would probably be a demand for labor, and it would be quite right for us to be generous with work permits. Not illegal immigration, but let them come in and fulfill the role. They wouldn't have the incentive to bring their families. So a free market and a constitutional government would go a long way to solving this problem.
All right. Thank you, Congressman Paul. Congressman Paul wants one of his 30 seconds right here. Congressman Paul, you got 30 seconds.
That whole comment's based on the fact that he likes the way the country's going. If you play ball and do what they do, then you can do that and get some bills passed. But it takes time to change the course of history and to change the course this country's been on for so many years. And take, for instance, the understanding about the Federal Reserve System, the importance of auditing the Federal Reserve System. We have 317 people on that bill. It's bipartisan, and it's already passed the House of Representatives. That's a lot more important than having a bill that you work with the establishment and get it passed and say, oh, look at me, I passed 5 bills.
Thank you, Congressman. And for his response to this question, Congressman Ron Paul.
The debt is obviously a very, very serious problem. And unless we get it under control, we're going to have a dollar crisis, a currency crisis. We've already had a financial crisis, but just printing the money to pay these bills is devastating. And it's real hard to get things in check as long as we endorse the idea of a secret bank that can print money out of thin air. Everything has to be cut. Everything. And if we really had a good rule, we could say, well, if you're 10% over budget, cut 10%, cut it across the board. But at the rate we're going now, we're going to spend ourselves into oblivion, and this is going to be a major, major crisis for us. But we first have to realize that it is the attitude of the people, what they think the role of government should be. If you think we should have the welfare state fund, but if you think we should run the world and have troops in 140 countries, have bases in 700 bases overseas, and don't think that we can't cut a $1 trillion empire around the world, it doesn't even contribute to our national defense. It makes us in greater danger because we're overseas doing these things. It's not defense. It's what Eisenhower called it, a military-industrial complex who's running the show now. And there are too many people who think that the military budget is sacred and it creates jobs. War never creates a good economy. We need to cut back every single thing we're doing up in Washington.
All right. Thank you.